we go. This week we're looking at Exsecting, Unchanged, Divergent, and Additive fantasy conceits and how a world can have multiple of them, which is why we're going to do something a little different this week. So instead of just drawing random things out of my big old bucket, I'm going to do this special little group right here are just Exsecting ones, so I will remove something from the world and then grab some others from the bucket, 2 more from the bucket to show what Additive would be like. So let us see what we're going to have remove from this world. Religion. This will be a world without any religion whatsoever. Other options were fire and no standing water on the surface, but in this world, no religion, which is going to be interesting. And then now I'm going to pick out 2 more to see what we will add to this new world. Beehive Islands, that'll be interesting. And 2 warring pantheons. So that one's is kind of mutually exclusive against the no religion. No, let's keep it in. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can draw it together, streamline them, so perhaps the warring pantheons is why there is no religion. One more for good measure. Let's see. Chaotic magic. That means that I'm going to draw a magic system from Chaotic Shiny, and let's see. So we have a magic, and it is practitioners of this technique cannot break their oaths. It uses chance to channel power. Ice, conjuration, and shapeshifting are considered its central attributes. So with those 3 things, 3 additives and 1 Exsecting, I'm going to get to work. See you in a little bit. Okay, so let's see, 15 minutes in, and I'm finishing my bottom up phase. That means that I've taken my very disparate ideas and are putting them together. I'm stringing them together where one leads to the other, which leads to the other. This is the replace all ands with buts or therefores, which deserves its own video at some point in time, so I should do that. So anyways, I kind of had a weird one here where there's no religion, which is a cultural thing. Remember that pantheons and gods are metaphysical. Meanwhile, religion is a social construct, is how humans interact and think about and worship the deities themselves. So they do look like they're very different, but in this case, they're going to work out pretty well. It sounds like I'm running out of batteries. Anyway, so I've decided that warring pantheons is what in fact leads to no religion. Let's see, this is also what would lead to the magic, and it's that type of thing. The idea is you have 2 warring pantheons. I'm going to use 2 analogs here of the Aztecs and Norse because I don't have enough time to make my own pantheon on the fly. So 2 bloody ones, their war and fighting each other is what led to the Beehive Islands. I'm going to make these biological conceit, the idea that these come through randomly and will just destroy everything. And this is what led people to no longer worship the gods. They hate the gods. In fact, I'm going to try to flip the script where they're hunting the gods itself because of these Beehive Islands. Because of this, they developed their magic system, which you cannot break your oath. They use ice, shapeshifting, and conjuration, which I have to go look up to figure what that is, to become Godhunters. So again, building up, I've put all of these very different ideas together. I've kind of strung them along, and now I'm going to see if I can build a world and a little more proto-story. Alright, it has been 38 minutes in total, and not gonna lie, I've had a very long few days, and was like, I don't have the energy to do this, I really shouldn't, but to make the schedule I did it anyways, and I'm really glad I did, because this has been a pretty cool world. if I do say so myself. So let me walk you through it real quick. I did the antecedents just moments ago for you. Idea was that there were warring pantheons, which caused the Beehive Islands, which is what caused no religion, and the magic to a certain extent, which led to Godhunters, which are the who are hunting the gods. And so we're going to flip the script in this one, where the gods, instead of being the bad guys, as they normally are in fantasy stories, are actually going to be kind of the heroes. I'm going to do it with a lesser powerful, not all powerful deities, but more like demigods, kind of the heroes, Hercules, that kind of thing. It's funny that I'm using analogs here. I would build my pantheons from scratch, or at least on my website I have a nifty chart that's also going to be in the upcoming book of ideas for themes for gods, the god of whatever, and I ended up picking the god of harvest, the god of dawn, and the god of diplomacy, which we'll get to in just a second. So if in this case I'm going to actually use analogs instead of building them, because I've done 38 minutes of this. I'm going to say there were originally 3 pantheons, even though there's 2. One of them, and it's going to say, Egyptian, let's say Egyptian, has been wiped out. We'll get to that in a second. So anyways, antecedents are done. We have this world where there's no religion because they hate the gods. And I thought, because this is part of the extrapolation, is that they're going to be they're going to be one nomadic, because they have to leave the Beehive Island. There's now only one. Originally there were supposed to be many, but for story reasons there will be only one now. And because of it, you have to get out when these giant bees show up near the coast. They will just decimate everything, but you need to live near the coast. So the people have become much more nomadic. I'm going to say there's a lot more water, surface water, for the island to float around on. So they're nomadic. Nomadic cultures are often honor-based cultures. Look that up. But they have a idea of affronts to their reputation. That's something they can't stand. I was raised in the South. This is something that we understand. So real big on hospitality and politeness, but if you have an affront to someone's honor, then it has to be dealt with violently, which makes sense for this magic system, which they cannot break their oaths, so it all works back together. So now we sort of have a very loose background. Let's do more of the history of the world, the background. As again I said, there were 3 pantheons originally, one based on Norse, one based on an analog of the Aztecs, because it's my next, when I finish up my other series, I use Aztecs in it, and it's great, it's a pantheon. And then finally the Egyptians. Humans have been, their servants, as we think of most of the time, worship me, and I will do things for you, but bring me more grapes to eat. They've been caught in the crossfire between these warring pantheons for years, and they've been used as kind of, not shock troops, but they have a certain degree of magic that the gods taught them that's going to be based on, or that this is kind of. The islands were built by one of the Egyptian pantheons. He decided to build a weapon of war, which was a living island full of giant bees that were going to destroy everything, and it actually backfired and destroyed his entire pantheon. That part of the globe is a wasteland, because that's where the bees started and have been growing since then, kind of thing. But they're moving. Let's make it moving islands again. Okay, so let's have moving islands, plural. And anyways, so everyone's kind of has to move whenever an island shows up. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. Humans rebelled. Some humans rebelled against the gods, took the magic the gods had where they can. Use ice, shapeshifting, conjuration, which I looked up just to make sure I get and I'm going with the D&D version of it, which means you can make objects appear. So that's their kind of base. They cannot break their oath once you start casting this magic. Anyways, they became Godhunters and have been hunting down and shrinking the gods' influence, each pantheon's influence. In fact, they've already destroyed the Aztec, and our story is going to begin with them destroying the last bastion of the Norse mythology, Norse pantheon analog. They're going to have our hero. Her name's Val, because Valkyries, and I'm lazy, and only she escapes, but she's the goddess of dawn, not that strong. And that's not quite true. A lot of them escape, just like with the Aztec pantheon, but they've been hunted since then, and most of it captured and killed, so there are very few gods left on this world. Dawn is out. Not all humans hate gods. Some of them still try to worship them, but don't piss off the God Hunter. And unfortunately for Val, her pantheon has been scattered to the wind, and she's the only one who gets away. But so now she has to navigate the humans around here. She starts learning about the human culture and why the gods hate them so much. But she's still being hunted by a very clever God Hunter, and his name is going to be Lucian. I think that's how it's said. Lucien. Lucian. All right, let's say. So now she's got this guy, and he's very clever on her trail, kind of mischievous, almost Loki-esque, if you're going to use another analog, if you want to list a comp. Anyways, so she's trying to escape him, lots of close calls, and one of them, she ends up running into another god, an Aztec god from the warring pantheon. His name is going to be Q for Quetzalcoatl, and he's the god of diplomacy, so really kind of the weakest two gods in the world. And he's been passing himself off as human, so he's more of an expert on humans since their pantheon was destroyed a while back. The two of them dislike each other immediately because warring pantheons, but that's when a beehive attacks, because this is going to be in the setup phase of the story. This is still Act 1, and this will establish what the beehives are and how devastating they are. So the two of them have to work together to get out of there alive and to avoid Lucian. Except they didn't. He captures them, and they think he's about to execute them. So God of Diplomacy Q says, we can actually stop I know how to stop the beehive attacks, and will you spare us if I stop them? Well, Lucian's very clever and thinks, oh yeah, okay, let's see what's going on. He doesn't abide by the rules of the honor culture as well as everyone else does. But he does, once he swears something, he has to go through it. So he swears that he will let them live if they can stop the beehives. So they start their trek, and now it's a road trip kind of story where you have your three opposing sides that hate each other that are working together. Lucian's kind of like the dad, which is funny because he's actually he's the most powerful even though he's human, and these two kind of weak gods have to work together, and then they start their quest, and they're going to have to go into the dead part of the world where the Egyptian god analogs were killed. Road trip story, trying to backstab each other, but they eventually start becoming friends. Unfortunately, Lucian never got permission to do this, and since it's honor culture, his boss feels affronted and is now hunting them, the three of them, and with a team of the most badass God Hunters is now on their trail. As they're trekking their way through the dead area, then we can do a lot more world building. This dead area belongs to the bees now, so they keep going into it, and with the God Hunters on the better team of God Hunters, because you always have to have the bad guys more powerful than the good guys, which is going to be interesting when you have two gods. Along the way, they become begrudging friends. That's going to take us through the midpoint. It's probably when, anyways, the Dark Night of the Soul, if you ever look at the structure kind of thing, is that when, they actually find out that the dead god is actually still alive, the one that created the bees, and he is actually in the hive, the main hive, and being kept alive, and is what is powering it basically. So all the other ones are going out because of that. My structure a little iffy right here. I guess I should have. Dark Knight is going to be Q revealing that he had lied, and there is no actual cure for this thing. So I'd have to work with the structure on that to figure out when, so their team wants to break up, as teams always do in the Dark Knight, and then the finale is them, reaffirming their bond and deciding to work together to go into the main beehive using the skills that they've learned, since she's the goddess of dawn, she's going to have to learn how to use her light cleverly as his diplomacy, and then Lucian can shapeshift and create things, which actually is a pretty cool hunting ability. So, how are they going to get in there to actually try to free this god, which flips the script for everyone, especially Lucian, I'm going to actually save the god so we can stop the bees. So anyways, there you go. It's been 48 minutes since drawing out the all things. I used Exsecting when I removed religion. Didn't come up too much. I mean, if I had removed fire or groundwater, that would have more effect on the world itself, but the removing religion did work out well with the warring pantheons. which just goes to show like you can string all the things together, and that you can have multiple types with it. We had Exsecting and then several Additive in this one as well, and a lot of unchanged, because that's just how it works. Terra de facto is the term for that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that.